It started as a regular night, but what happened next was nothing short of a storm. In a world where emotions run high and secrets are buried deep beneath layers of fame and ego, the line between loyalty and betrayal is often thinner than a razor's edge. But when a single grainy video surfaced, everything changed in an instant. A video that would unravel years of trust, love, and friendship. A video that would leave the internet in shock, asking one question: what did we just witness? Was it real? Was it a setup? Or was it something darker? Something we all missed along the way? The camera, blurry and imperfect, captured more than just a few seconds of chaos. It captured the unraveling of lives. And at the center of it all was Chrissy, Harlem's ride-or-die fiancé who had spent 2 decades waiting for the love she thought would never betray her. But now, that very love was on the line. As the video spread like wildfire, the whispers began. The internet gasped in disbelief. It wasn't just a rumor. It wasn't just a shady DM. It was a betrayal so deep, it made the harshest words look like whispers in the wind. For Chrissy, it felt like the ground beneath her was being pulled away, leaving her to fall into an abyss where trust and love no longer existed. The video was blurry, grainy, but it was powerful, capturing a secret that was never meant to see the light of day. And now, the entire world knew. The video didn't just leak. It detonated, exploding across the internet like a bomb that couldn't be defused. And as it spread, people started to dig deeper. They weren't just questioning the video itself. They were questioning Chris's entire narrative. For years, the public had seen her as the strong, loyal fiancé, the one who stood by Jim's side through thick and thin. But now, the world was questioning everything. Was she as loyal as we thought? Was she hiding more than just her relationship? With the video circulating, Chrissy was suddenly thrust into a role she never signed up for, the villain in her own story. Before we dive into the drama, let's take a step back. Chrissy, Jim Jones, and Camron were never just famous faces in a crowd. No, they were a powerful trio, a relationship so complicated that even outsiders could never quite understand the weight of their ties. Chrissy, a woman who had given everything, sacrificed so much, all for a ring that never came. 2 decades of waiting for the commitment she was promised, the same commitment she had seen Jim Jones show to everyone but her. For Chrissy, it wasn't just about the ring. It was about trust. It was about believing in something bigger than herself, something that could give her the love and security she craved. Yet, every time she reached out for that love, it was always just out of reach. Jim, the rapper, the hustler, the man whose heart seemed to be constantly on the edge, emotionally drained and unsure of where to go next. Jim was never one to wear his heart on his sleeve, but Chrissy had always known him better than anyone. She had been there through his highs and lows, through his battles with fame and fortune. But Jim was a complicated man, and his love for Chrissy was just as complicated. For years, it seemed like he could never commit fully, never give her the ring she had waited for. Was it fear? Was it his own inner demons? No one knew for sure. But Chrissy believed, even when everyone else doubted, that she could be the one to change him. Yet, as time passed, the cracks in their relationship started to show, and Jim's silence only added to the uncertainty. And then there was Camron, the ex-friend, the one who played the game from the shadows, holding on to receipts that could burn down more than just relationships. Camron was the wild card, the one who seemed to enjoy stirring the pot. He had always been close to Jim, but their bond had slowly disintegrated over the years. Business, pride, old wounds. Their friendship wasn't what it used to be, and Camron seemed to relish every moment of that. But it wasn't just about the past. It was about power, about who had the upper hand. And with this video, Camron had found his moment. His chance to take control. The tension between Jim and Cam had been simmering for years, built on pride, business, and an unspoken rivalry. But what nobody could have predicted was how deep the betrayal would cut when Chrissy became the focal point. A blurry video of a candlelit scene, Chrissy, and someone who definitely wasn't Jim. And suddenly, Harlem's most chaotic triangle was on display for the world to see. But was it truly what it seemed? Or had we just scratched the surface of something much darker? The video hit the internet with the kind of impact you only see in movies, but this wasn't fiction. This was real life, and it was ugly. Chris's entire legacy, everything she had fought for, everything she had built, was suddenly up in flames. No, this wasn't just a shady rumor. This wasn't the latest gossip floating around on a tabloid. This was hard evidence, visual evidence, that shattered the public's perception of the woman who had been known for being fiercely loyal and unshakably strong. The video, though grainy and far from perfect in quality, told a story that needed no clarification. The lighting was intimate, the body language undeniable. And Jim? Nowhere in sight. For Chrissy, it wasn't just the video itself that made her tremble. It was the fact that the footage showed her in a way that no one had ever seen her before. Vulnerable. Alone. It felt like an intimate betrayal not just against Jim, but against herself. Her entire image, carefully constructed over the years, came crashing down in mere seconds. But that wasn't the only shock. What made the leak even more dangerous was its origins. The video wasn't just from a few months ago, or even last year. Sources close to the situation, well, sources like an Uber driver who overheard a conversation in passing, said that this footage was over a decade old. Recorded during a Dipset afterparty in Miami. Before Chrissy even proposed on national television, before any of the promises were made. As the world watched Chrissy's empire burn, the question on everyone's mind was, how did this leak happen? The video, once a private piece of her life, was now out in the open for the world to scrutinize. Was this an intentional attack aimed at her? Was someone deliberately trying to tear down everything she had built, or had this just been a careless mistake? Chrissy had always been the one in control of her narrative. She had mastered the art of public perception, always projecting an image of strength, loyalty, and love. But now, her narrative was no longer hers to dictate. It was being told by others, the people who had seen the video, the ones who speculated on the details, and those who spread rumors without a second thought. In that moment, Chrissy realized she was no longer the one holding the reins. The video wasn't just an embarrassing leak. It was a weapon, one that could potentially destroy everything she had fought so hard to build. The world watched as her once pristine image was torn apart. Chrissy had been a fixture in the public eye for years, admired by many for her patience, loyalty, and the love she shared with Jim. Her relationship had always seemed like a symbol of stability amidst the chaos, a beacon of what true love could look like. But now, those very qualities that once defined her were being questioned. People who had once looked up to her were now doubting her character. The video that had been shared so recklessly wasn't just a betrayal from Jim. It was the ultimate betrayal by someone who had once been close to her, someone she had trusted. How could Camron, of all people, have done this to her? She had once called him a friend, and now he had exposed her to the world in one of the most vulnerable moments of her life, all without her knowledge or consent. The betrayal cut deep, and the implications of this leak began to settle in Chris's mind like a heavy weight. Was this an act of revenge, a petty payback for some old grudge? Or had it been something more sinister, a calculated attempt to destroy everything she had worked for? The uncertainty of the motives behind the leak only made the situation worse. Chrissy had always trusted Camron, and now she was forced to question whether that trust had been misplaced all along. She wondered if this was an isolated incident or if there was something more brewing beneath the surface. Whatever the answer, one thing was clear: the damage was done. The video had already been seen by millions, and the world wasn't going to look at her the same way again. As Chrissy sat in front of the screen, watching the video replayed over and over again, she felt a cold sense of helplessness wash over her. The flood of emotions, betrayal, anger, humiliation, was overwhelming. She had stood by Jim's side through everything, supporting him through thick and thin. But now, it felt as though she had been left standing on the edge of the world. She was completely exposed, and for the first time in a long time, she felt utterly alone. The support she had always given to Jim now felt hollow, as if it was all for nothing. The trust she had in the people closest to her had been shattered, and she didn't know where to turn. The world seemed to be turning its back on her, and Chrissy had no one to lean on. In the quiet aftermath of the leak, Chrissy realized that everything had changed. She had always been the strong one, the one who held it all together, but now the cracks were showing, and she didn't know if she could pick up the pieces. The emotional toll was too much to bear in the public eye, and yet, there was no escape from it. She knew that the road ahead would be filled with more scrutiny, more rumors, and more challenges than she could ever imagine. The The world had already decided who she was. And no matter what she did, it seemed as though nothing could undo the damage. Chrissy had to find a way to rebuild. But the trust that had been shattered would be difficult to repair, especially when the world had already seen her at her most vulnerable. In this moment, she felt a sense of isolation like never before. Despite the years of loyalty and the sacrifices she had made, Chrissy now faced the painful reality that the very people she had trusted most had played a role in her public unraveling. The betrayal wasn't just from Jim, and it wasn't just from Camron. It was from everyone who had turned her private pain into public spectacle. With everything she had worked for now in jeopardy, Chrissy had to figure out how to survive in a world that no longer seemed to care about her truth, only the narrative they had created for her. The road ahead was uncertain, and she had no choice but to face it alone, with nothing left but the remnants of what once was. She didn't know who to trust anymore. Everyone had their own agenda, their own motives, their own version of the truth. What was real? What was manipulated? Chrissy could no longer tell. All she knew was that the world was turning its back on her, and she couldn't stop it. There was no way to take back the video. No way to undo the damage it had caused. And so, Chrissy was left to pick up the shattered pieces of her legacy, unsure of where to go next, unsure of who would still stand by her side.